Okay, welcome to What You Missed When You Didn't Exist. I am Corbett, and I am 52.
And I'm Lucy, and I'm 22.
And Lucy is my sad daughter who is still going to school and becoming a teacher. I don't know why I needed to tell you that.
Thanks for that. And you're my old dad. And that's it.
I'm glad you added an extra old to emphasize it.
Yep.
Thanks. It's just important for you to remember that if you live your entire life again from the beginning to now and then add 10 more years onto it, yes, that's how old I am.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I added an old for, well, I guess I should have added
Old
another one.
and old. Old and old.
Yeah. So that way it's like per decade. Each decade you get an
Uh,
old added to it.
yeah, I definitely get another old. Old. It's like the kid from Emperor's New Groove. You're more like my great. Yeah,
Exactly. Just like that.
it's okay. Well, this time on What You Missed When You Didn't Exist, we are talking about Milli Vanilli, the totally amazing and awesome band that made it big and is an icon for all time. Or you might say, huh?
Yeah, that would be me.
They actually went on to become a real band. They did several albums actually, but they had a big scandal, I guess, when they first got started. I think they started around 88 or 89. 90 was the scandal moment. But basically, they're two pretty good-looking guys who got put out as the front runners for a band. It's not the first time that's ever happened. They also didn't record a single vocal track for their first album, which probably is a little less than normal for a first band. They're a scandal because they were busted for lip syncing. They only were the face of the album.
Wait, so if they didn't have any pre-recorded tracks, they got someone else to do it for them then?
Yeah, basically the people who did it came forward and said, we did that? And that's what kind of got them busted. Then I think they were cornered on some talk show or like an interview in the street or something, and they basically tried to emulate their songs. And they had the singers who were doing it had a much higher octave range.
Yeah.
Girl, You Know It's True was their big song that won the Grammy for the best new artist. And the big shocker is they had to give it back. The Grammy Awards actually requested that they give it back because they were not the best new artist. They literally did nothing but exist. And I mean, that's really sad to say, kind of true for a lot of singers probably nowadays because I think now it's more common. But it was just a big, like, shocker moment. Like, what? They would lie to us? Can't believe it.
The utter betrayal.
I will say they probably should have come clean when they got the award. I know it would be a big step up to go, yeah, we won a Grammy your first time out. It's like, your musicians who did it for you won the Grammy. You guys put on a good front. And they
Yeah.
did. If you look up their stuff, you can probably see it on YouTube. Their performances, big bright colors, giant jackets. Typically, they'd wind up going shirtless too, and they had like dreadlocks, and they were sharp-looking guys, and they were popular. Popular music is very way, it's always a good way to go, right?
Yeah. So like what era was this? This was the 90s?
1990 is when they got busted. They
Oh,
had their
okay.
first album, I think, come out in 88 or 89. It was the year before. For 1990, they got the Grammy. That was when they got busted. That's when the people came forward and said, no, we did that. Because they wanted the credit. And I don't know what the people who did it look like. Maybe they're mole people, for all I know. There's nothing wrong with being a mole person. You can live underground. I live underground half the time.
No,
I
you
record this in the
don't.
basement. So
The room of
technically,
doom. Bum, bum,
this
bum.
show is underground. So there you go. I'm a mole person, and I can assure you, I do not look anything like those guys.
My
And see, the
goodness.
thing is, I think I'd probably be okay with it, really. I mean, I am okay with it now because who cares?
Mhm.
I think at the time I would have been okay if they had come forward and said, "Look, we didn't write this. We just perform on stage when we have to. These guys sang for it. We're still doing something." Because they went on to do music on their own as their own artists. In fact, I think one of the two guys is still doing stuff.
Oh.
I don't know how popular they are. They're probably popular just because, well, they're Milli Vanilli, and obviously they have a name. As I
Yeah.
don't know, there's no bad press. There's no bad press.
That's true. There is no bad press, which is kind of unfortunate, but
That's well, nowadays it's definitely unfortunate.
yeah.
I will say we were talking about this before we were started recording, but I will say there's probably some precedent for other artists doing this, like live performances, because I know that they have a tight schedule, and there's always some artist out there who's running through to get to the next performance, and they get sick. You know,
Yeah.
they can't stay healthy all the time. And if you lose your voice and you still got to perform in front of a massive stadium, it's probably nice to have a track that you can fall back on and just kind of be there as a body. But see,
Yeah.
those artists also recorded it themselves. So, there is that.
Yeah. It's a difficult process. Then I guess I can relate it to two different shows cuz they did this in Friends
Oh,
with Phoebe. Remember? She was doing the Smelly Cat commercial and she was the face, but they didn't like her voice, so they had someone else sing it.
no, that's right. Yeah.
And that was like a whole big thing. But also more recently in High School Musical, Zac Efron in High School Musical did not sing. That was someone else singing for him,
You
which
lie.
is
Not about my
yeah.
Zach.
Which isn't a big deal now because now he sings because he sang in The Greatest Showman when that was a thing.
Yeah. Well, but High School Musical is like a show, so it doesn't really matter.
I think it
I mean,
matters. I felt betrayed as a young girl, and I was like, "Wait, he doesn't actually sound that good." And then it turns out
and then
he's
you
the voice of
instantly thought he was gross.
yeah, you know. You know, all singers and musicians are heartthrobs. That's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All they gotta do is get up there and do the smolder, and you're going,
Ugh, not the smolder. It's so
the
bad.
smolder.
No, but I can see why it's controversial. I think it's more socially accepted just because of like what you said that singers need a break. They
Mm.
T Swift, not to bring her up again, but she's on tour and she's going on tour for like a year and just singing every weekend would be so exhausting.
Mm.
It's just a lot on the vocal cords.
It's gotta stink a little bit for them too. I mean, just as you to get into music, you want to be a singer or a musician or whatever, then you just have to do it constantly and forever,
Yeah.
and there's no break. That's gotta stink on some level. Like you can't just enjoy it for what it is. You think they would
Yeah.
be able to put out better stuff and more? Of course, they're probably under the gun to put out better stuff all the time.
Oh,
I don't know,
definitely.
which has got to make it
I mean,
worse. You think if they were doing it because they really wanted to, they'd be putting out really good stuff.
mhm.
Okay, that sounds bad. We're gonna get a letter from T Swift for sure because she listens to
Oh my
this.
gosh. Yes, of course. She's not busy enough as it is.
No, but if you're doing it because you love it and not because you have to, I think you would probably be putting out much more pertinent things. But I mean, maybe that drive is what gets to happen. I guess the big thing now is now that we're in the future, what happened with all this? Well, for one thing, nobody knows who Milli Vanilli is really.
Yeah.
So you can be upset about it all you want, but that's just kind of the way history happens.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, was it Jimmy Fallon now has a whole skit on his show where it's like, hey, let's lip sync to this, and there's actually a whole show, the lip sync thing that he produces, right?
The lip sync battle?
Yeah,
Because I don't know if he produces it, but I know Chrissy Teigen is in it. Maybe he does produce it as like a sideshow.
yeah, he produces a
I
lot
don't
of
remember.
stuff nowadays, and it's kind of his shtick. He's
Yeah.
got the lip sync battle and the karaoke battle. Yeah, I get it, but it's funny that now it's so cemented in, and we do it in real life. We all like mime and move the dance moves and whatever. That's what the shower's for. So
Yeah, that's true. I will say going to like a karaoke bar is way more of an acceptable experience to mess up your lyrics in, but I also think you could lip sync and it would be fine because sometimes people's voices are not the best and they
yeah.
just want to be that person that's up on stage doing the thing.
I wonder if are there karaoke bars now that do that, where they just play the whole song as is and you lip sync just to do the
Um
moves?
I think it depends on the song that has enough. background vocals,
Mm.
but I don't know, in all honesty.
I mean, I could see that as a popular thing just because, like, oh yeah, I want to feel like that the way I feel when I'm driving to work and singing along with T Swift.
Well, they did it in Rock Band, didn't they? Like when we were playing, because if you went from easy to I think medium was when the backup vocals were super super strong, so that way you could
Mm,
hear it and match the pitch when you were the singer. But then I
right,
think when you passed from medium to expert, they got rid of all background vocals and all other sound helpers, I guess.
right.
So maybe, I don't know. I think that was what they did. I haven't played it in so long though. Because I'm old.
I remember. See, the thing is, I couldn't find anything, and maybe they've wiped it from the internet, but it seems impossible to see that. But
Hmm.
no, Cyrus, Miley
Yeah.
Cyrus's little sister. I want to say little sister. Could be her cousin. Could be way off on that.
I think it's Little Sister.
She got busted on Saturday Night Live. There's been a couple people that have been busted on Saturday Night Live. Like they start the song and they're supposed to be lip syncing because it's recorded and it has to match everything. And they start the wrong song or something happens halfway through the song and the music cuts out or whatever. And suddenly the musical guest gets distraught and just leaves or just does whatever. I remember her doing like a jig or some kind of dance and just kind of just scooting off the side of the stage when it went bad. But I could not find it anywhere online, so maybe it is my own imagination, but it could just be that it's been erased from the internet.
I mean, so many people get, I guess, accused. I feel like that's too strong of a word. Like accused of lip syncing.
You see that falls into that, like she probably was sick, or maybe they told her to do it that way because she's on a show. Things have to match and set right. They have to follow cues and everything. So it's not. It's almost like having a rock video of yourself.
Yeah.
It has to be almost pre-recorded to a certain extent, but they do it live in front of studio audience because that's the show.
But you do have to pre record and lip sync for music videos, don't you? Because most of the time you're too focused on
Right.
choreography
It's
and
it's all the performance at that point.
so at that point, why are we upset about it?
I'm not
You know?
upset about it. I'm just saying like it happens. It's happened a couple times to other stars. I think there was one at the Super Bowl, wasn't there? Some kind of
Oh, I think it was Rihanna because she
yeah.
was accused of lip syncing, but she was, I want to say, 7 months pregnant, and
Hmm.
her singers were balancing on these really scary high wire stages. And wasn't that the year with all the, I want to say the 90s rappers? No, that was a different year.
Well, my point is that it happens.
Yeah.
In the case of most, if not all of these performers that get the lip sync thing, the Milli Vanilli treatment. In Milli Vanilli's case, they went through a whole album never singing once and took the credit for it when they went to the Grammys. We're talking more about people that are on stage under pressure. They have to get the thing out. They got to show up, whether they're sick or tired or pregnant or whatever, and they got to pump this stuff out because the fans need to see it. And it's kind of sad that people can't be a little more understanding and go, "Oh, they're sick. Well, I guess that's fine."
Yeah. Some people get so crazy about that. But I do agree that Milli Vanilli should not have accepted the Grammy or at least
Yeah, that
come
was
out about it beforehand just because that's just terrible.
well, or they could have accepted it and said, "We have to accept this in the name of the people who sang it because we didn't sing it."
That's true.
That would be pretty rough on them, but them coming forward at that point would have still been like, we're accepting it for them. Well, okay, you're giving credit, and that's okay. They still would have gotten a lot of the razz, I think, but they probably wouldn't have got as much of the bitterness afterwards. The sort of
Yeah.
like, you betrayed us, you cheated us. Like, no, they just put out our performance, and that was what they did.
Yeah, they really should have just accepted it gracefully like Vanessa Williams did. Even though this isn't really the same thing, but just
Yeah.
taking the responsibility and saying, "Hey, I did this. If I'm relinquishing this, I am relinquishing it."
Yeah, nah, it's just awkward. And there's probably a lot of awkward moments that I'm sure we'll get to at some point with all these quirky little moments in history. Well, my life.
Yes, history. You're a historical
uh,
antique, Dad.
yeah, I am an antique. I guess Millie Vanilli did okay if I still remember him, right?
I mean, I guess. I've never heard of Milli Vanilli though, but
Never? Not even as like a side joke in an old show or something?
no,
I mean,
not
1990 wasn't
really.
that long ago.
I mean, it was 30 years ago. So
30.
it's kind of a long time ago.
Oh, yikes.
It's older than I am, which makes it
Yeah, that's
old.
well, you didn't exist, remember?
Oh,
Don't you
yeah.
remember when you didn't exist?
Clearly, I
Mm.
need to recheck my life.
Well, there'll be Zac Efrons for you just as much as there was Milli Vanilli for me. So there you go.
Yeah, but Zac Efron wasn't canceled for what he did. It was just something I found out later because the guy that sang for Zac Efron in High School Musical ended up
Mm.
singing and acting in the Cinderella movie with Selena Gomez.
No, so I guess he
So,
got it all worked out.
yeah, and then Zac Efron figured out how to sing.
Mm. So I guess we don't have so many Cyrano de Bergeracs going around as much as we think.
Any what? What did you say?
Cyrano de Bergerac.
What in the what?
Cyrano de Bergerac?
I don't know what.
You don't know who
Who?
Cyrano de Bergerac is? You're a
No.
English major.
Okay. And?
Oh my gosh. Cyrano de Bergerac was based around a man who had a large nose, a nose so large that it made him what he felt like was hideous to other people. But because of that, he read and was well read, and he loved Roxanne? No, I want to say it's not Roxanne. I want to say Roxanne because it was the Steve Martin version of it. Goodness gracious. Anyway, he was in love with somebody who he didn't think he had a chance to be with because she would see his hideous nose and think he's terrible. He ran into another young, good looking man who had no potential of knowing all the things that Cyrano knew about. So Cyrano stood in the bushes and told him what to say to her so that she would fall in love with him. The utter
Oh.
bitterness of that was that Cyrano then lost out on the love of his life and winds up getting killed in a war.
Oh,
So
that's sad.
apparently, you need to work on your Cyrano de Bergerac.
I mean, yeah.
That's like that's a literature piece.
I'm an English education major, so I hit the highlights. I did not
The
hit
highlight.
the in-depth stuff. I haven't actually ever read like Thomas Hardy, but sorry, getting off topic.
No, but the point being that Cyrano de Bergerac had somebody be the face for his brain. I think there's a new version of there's a movie out covering it with Peter Dinklage.
Oh.
And instead of going with the big nose, they're going with he's, a little person,
Mhm.
and therefore the woman that he loves will never love him back, blah, 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 blah. Story evolved.
Oh. So
But it's been done
basically, this is an issue that's been going on since before you existed.
long before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess that's true. There's always been people pretending to be other people because they don't think they'll be liked. So I guess we should just
So
start accepting
people,
people for liking things, being
yeah,
liked.
just know that you're good enough to do the things.
So everybody should listen to Taylor Swift. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. Know that you are enough and listen to Taylor Swift. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, go to mail@whatyoummissedpodcast.com and send us some info.
Okay. This has been What You Missed When You Didn't Exist. And we have covered Milli Vanilli. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.